Welcome back. This is the Intel on ENCA. Jan Huber joins me in conversation ahead of tomorrow. So Jan, can we talk of a battle of the metros in this election in the same way that we did in 2016? Is there really a battle, or have the parties that have led coalitions in these metros had enough time to consolidate either their position or their position as first takers to forming a coalition government?
To Lesizwe, we have very much a battle of the metros going. Where we had that battle in the three metros of Tshwane, Kebega, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Johannesburg in the previous election, I think we can expect those three metros to be extremely competitive again. And also, I think we might want to add Mangaung, which is the Bloemfontein, Botshabelo area. Not so much, I think, Buffalo City, although, of course, anything can happen on election day. Ekurhuleni last time was extremely competitive. So we're in a situation currently where we have hung metros in the three Gauteng metros and Nelson Mandela Bay. That's 4 in total out of 8. That's a very high number. Maybe it'll become 5 out of 8. And on a bad day for the DA in Cape Town, a good day for the ANC, good, and the EFF in Cape Town, maybe it comes into play. We don't know. 26 million South Africans have the opportunity tomorrow to stand up and decide whether they're going to vote and what they're going to vote. It would be crazy to be too predictive in what we expect.
So, to what extent do you have these waves of support? You were talking earlier on about the further away you move from the heart of Cape Town to the sort of peripheral Western Cape provinces, the harder the battle, at least. Let's peg it at that level. That the harder the battle for the DA, at least, the further away you move from Cape Town. This is in sharp contrast with when the DA used to talk about a wave that was sweeping from the Western to the Eastern Cape, and they could pinpoint and talk about municipalities such as Kouga, for example, and moving all the way up towards Nelson Mandela Bay. And they were looking to make that wall a blue wall.
A blue wall, to coin a phrase. I think they would hope for it, and it is possible that it still happens. Of course, that blue wall didn't quite occur. There's a little hole in the wall, not at the hole in the wall in the Transkei, but at a hole in the wall that is called Bito. The Plettenberg Bay municipality broke that blue stretch. They won Kouga outright, Kouga being Humansdorp, Jeffreys Bay area, and Hankie. And then they got Port Elizabeth, Kebega, Nelson Mandela Bay, Uitenhage, sort of by a whisker, by working with COPE, ACDP and others. It's going to be tough for them to repeat that, but it's quite possible. That blue wall, however, then stops at the Makanda municipality, which is Makana and Makana municipality, which is Makanda and the rest of that area. So I don't think it will extend eastwards. It might go north a bit if the Beyers-Naudé municipality, Graafrenet area, goes blue this time. It always tends to go close, and then the ANC grabs it at the last moment.
And who knows what the priorities of the DA are at the moment, because to be honest, I'm not able to discern what the priorities are.
Not only you.
Is it about winning back those voters that they lost to the Vryheids Front Plus, or is it about actually moving further ahead and trying to be a governing party? Let me take you from the coastal areas, the east of the country, to the heartland. Let's talk Johannesburg.
Yes.
The polling from Ipsos shows that Herman Mashaba and his ActionSA are set to do relatively well.
Yes.
Let's peg it no higher than that, relatively well.
Yes.
Are you surprised by this?
Somewhat, but not completely. And I think it is a combination of a few factors if we talk about ActionSA. The first thing is that Herman Mashaba, despite what his detractors might say, had a very positive message and a very positive image as the mayor of Johannesburg. Secondly, of course, the major parties in Johannesburg, especially the ANC and the DA, have been doing themselves no favours on the national stage. So the figures I saw from Ipsos pegged the ANC and the DA in the mid-20s, and ActionSA on about 12.5, which is extremely high, and the EFF on about 8. that is going to keep us busy all week if that plays out.
Yeah.
Because then you have to build a coalition. Someone needs to get to 50. Or otherwise you're going to have the situation you have in Tshwane currently with a minority government which is exceedingly unstable.
Sure. And in this conversation, where does the EFF feature then? Because they were the kingmakers of 2016. If we maybe take Johannesburg as part of the equation from what you just said now, but broaden it and say,
sure,
will this be the election where we see the EFF take a few wards, for example, instead of relying on proportional representation candidates, which are valid candidates because they add the
Absolutely.
numbers in council, but it's always sweeter to win outright in a first-past-the-post kind of contest.
Yes, and you can quote the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF on that. You will remember that his ward in Seshego was won by his party, and he, I wouldn't want to put boasted, but he was very happy about it. So absolutely. It depends very much on local situations. The other question is, the EFF in 2016 decided to go into cooperative governance situations with the other opposition parties to the ANC. It's important to know how that decision will be taken this time around. It was a countrywide decision taken by the top 25 in the EFF, and if they do the same thing again, which, I mean, they're normally very consistent, but that's a question we need to ask the EFF, is how will that decision be reached? My understanding would be that it would be the same process, which means that we will know only a few days after the election, once that grouping of EFF leadership has met, what the EFF will do, whether they will take a national decision, provincial decision, or a council-by-council decision, whether they will decide to go with the opposition, go with the ANC, or go it alone. All of those three options are open.
But one thing we know for sure, or well, I suppose we can't say for sure in these things, is that the DA dislikes Herman Mashaba.
Yes.
Dislikes him enough to take out a paid-for commercial that ran over a period of time, painting him in a particular way.
Yes.
We know for certain that's likely to be a dynamic. But also, we wonder what the dynamic would be between the ANC and the EFF, given the amplification of tensions between, Cyril Ramaphosa and the EFF.
Yes.
Those national dynamics are likely to then play in as far as who goes into coalition with who.
By all means. The extent to which they will play in, that's going to be the question. That they will play in definitely. The extent to which that will be decided by events, by the personalities themselves, by the message taken from the voters, by the actual results.
And I forgot to mention in that equation that, in a way, it seems to me at least, Herman Mashaba has painted himself into a corner where even if he wants to be first taker at trying to form a coalition government, the ANC can't really be an option for him, can it? Having decampaigned them the way he has. I mean, how do you say to voters, the people that I said I want to remove are the people that I'm hoping to work with in a coalition?
So this is where these things are so relative. In those days after an election, politicians suddenly come across parts of their own personalities and those of their opponents they never knew existed. A new relationship is formed. Sometimes it lasts long, sometimes it doesn't. But don't throw away the expediency of politicians when power is at stake.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the things, Yan, that I heard, Zandile Masina will join my panel discussion with current Metro leaders. That's coming up at 5 p.m. I was listening to him in a conversation with John Perlman on 702, and I was actually intrigued by what he said about how, in a way, working in a coalition in Ekurhuleni actually served them well. He says the arrogance of power went away. It went away from the equation, and you could be convinced and persuaded by the other political parties who have as much of a claim to power as you do, because without them, you are not in control. I thought that was interesting.
Well, very clever move by Mr. Masina some days before those kind of negotiations have to start. Because if he can convince the smaller parties that that is the case, and if the ANC can do so, then the negotiations will be easy. If they are seen as a large party riding roughshod over smaller parties, they've got problems. If they can seem clear and open, they've got a good negotiation position.
Jan, I can't let us end this conversation without talking about the two stories of growth from the last two election cycles. Vryheids Front Plus, I don't know why I like saying it in Afrikaans, just makes me feel like I was paying attention at Metric.
There we go.
And as well as the IFP. When it looked like chips were down for many, many political parties, chips were up for those two. Absolutely. Are we likely to see that continue?
Very interesting situation. I believe that the IFP campaign in KwaZulu-Natal went very, very well. We know that the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has massive, massive problems. Whether that will, in the end, play out in the election results, we'll have to see. I personally would not be surprised. I'm not predicting it. But I would not be surprised if we see good growth for the IFP, especially north of the Tugela River, but not so much in the Ladysmith, Newcastle area, more to the north and in the centre than to the north and to the east. As far as the Freedom Front Plus is concerned, or the Vryheidsfront Plus is concerned,
yeah,
I spoke it well.
The DA won't like that very much because they still, this is the election where they can have an opportunity to reel back whatever support they've lost to the FF Plus.
The Freedom Front Plus has not done anything that would chase away the about 250,000, 350,000 voters that they gained from the DA the last time. I don't think that there's that much reason, except for power politics and the standard of current DA councillors, which in some instances, especially in Tshwane, very, very good DA councillors. That might hinder the Freedom Front Plus. But also, the Freedom Front Plus is coming from such a low base in other parts of the country that they must grow. So I foresee continued growth for them.
I'm almost out of time, and this is the last question, Jan. We've spoken about the big metros, but the last cycle, 2016, produced interesting outcomes in areas we were not watching, to be quite honest. The likes of Mogale City, Mokgopong, those kind of small municipalities where suddenly there was no winner and an opposition party could form a coalition. Likely to be the same?
To assess where it's very possible, and also in KwaZulu-Natal, also in municipalities in the Free State, where, like Metsimaholo, Sasolburg, which I can give you the assurance that this time we are watching them. We are watching them closely, and we will be giving you those trends as soon as they occur tomorrow on voting day, and especially tomorrow night, through the night, as these results come in. So we are watching them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Jan Uber, political commentator contributing to our coverage here at ENCA. I've got to thank you for that and staying on with me when the other interview didn't happen. It was a worthwhile conversation to have with you. Jan Uber, look out for more of his insights. You heard for yourself. The man will be bringing you those updates and zooming in to polling station level to tell you what are the trends as they come in from tomorrow. This is the Intel on ENCA. I'm back with more for you in just a moment.